In this video, you will learn how to make your Insta360 X3 videos more cinematic. With a couple easy steps, we can transform ordinary 360 footage into a cinematic masterpiece. The first step is to set your exposure to manual. I know this may seem intimidating, but it is actually quite easy to use. The main reason we use the manual camera settings is to prevent random shifts in the exposure mid-shot. The auto exposure is usually really good, but sometimes it can mess up. In this example, I use the auto camera settings, and as you can see, the exposure starts out really dark and slowly gets brighter as the shot progresses. This is very difficult to fix in post-production, so it is best to avoid it in the first place. To get to the manual settings, swipe from the right side of the screen and then select Manual. There are 3 manual settings that you can change. The white balance changes the hue of the video. The Insta360 X3 does a really good job handling the white balance, so I usually keep it on auto. Next, we have the ISO, which is the camera's sensitivity to light. Higher ISO values are brighter, and lower ISO values are darker, but there is a catch. At higher ISO values, your video will become lower quality. Because of this, I always try to keep the ISO as low as possible. Lastly, we have the shutter speed, which is how long the shutter is open. Faster shutter speeds allow less light into your video, and slower shutter speeds allow more light into your video. I always try to keep the shutter speed above 1/120th of a second. Anything slower than that puts your videos at risk to become shaky. The next step is to implement camera movement into your shots. Stationary shots are often boring and can quickly lose your viewer's attention. Additionally, adding movement to your Insta360 X3 footage is super easy, thanks to the incredible flow state stabilization. Some of my favorite movements are the push forward, which can be achieved by walking forwards with your camera, and the rise up, which can be achieved by lifting your selfie stick up into the air. Both are subtle ways to add movement into your shots, making them more cinematic. The next idea is to use unique camera angles. Being able to mount the Insta360 X3 on a selfie stick unlocks so many cool perspectives that would otherwise be near impossible to achieve. For example, you can put your camera really high up into the air, or really low to the ground. Additionally, the small size of the camera allows you to put it into many places. For example, you can create unique POV shots like this one. The next tip is to shoot during sunrise or sunset. During these times, the sky becomes filled with color, and the sun casts unique shadows into the landscape. The colorful sky combined with the unique lighting makes the footage much more interesting and cinematic. It is also worth mentioning that you can get incredible results in other conditions as long as you take advantage of the lighting. For example, this shot was taken during midday. The sky is not full of color, but the shot is still amazing regardless. Now let's move on to some post-production tips. The first step is to remove the fisheye distortion. Fisheye distortion causes a straight line to appear bent. This can be seen on the horizon line in this clip, and the trees in this clip. When you import your clip into Insta360 Studio, it will naturally be fisheye distortion. Luckily, it is very easy to fix. Simply add a keyframe at the very beginning of the video and select Natural View. Another thing I like to do is slightly zoom out. This creates a wider field of view and in my opinion looks more cinematic. To zoom out, scroll down on a trackpad or mouse. The next step is to add keyframe movement. The ability to reframe 360 footage allows us to create dynamic shots with little effort. Let's say we want to get a tilt-up shot like this. With a traditional camera, we would have to perform the tilt-up motion while filming, but with the Insta360 X3, we can do it in post-production with keyframes. Another bonus is that the keyframe movement is incredibly smooth. Try experimenting by changing either the pan, tilt, or roll throughout your shot. The last step is to add motion blur into your shots. Motion blur essentially blurs out the fast-moving elements in a video. In this shot, motion blur is applied, and this fast-moving area over here is completely blurred out. Here is the same frame with motion blur disabled. As you can see, there is no blur. To add motion blur in Insta360 Studio, simply click the button that says Motion ND. In most videos, there is more motion blur around the edges of the video, which helps direct the viewer's attention into the center of the frame. The change is subtle, but in my opinion looks much more cinematic. I hope you learned something in this video and give some of these ideas a try. These simple steps will transform your ordinary 360 clips into unique cinematic footage.